The Crown of Eternal Dusk. Part 1, The Starless Night. The kingdom of Lunara was a land of contrasts, its skies perpetually painted in twilight hues, its rivers shimmering with moonlight, and its forests alive with glowing flora. Yet beneath its magical beauty lay a shadowy truth: the balance of day and night had been fractured by an ancient curse. For centuries, no sun had graced the skies, leaving the land trapped in eternal dusk. At the heart of this enchanted realm lived Karen Vale, a blacksmith's apprentice. Karen was ordinary by every measure, slim, wiry, and unremarkable in skill compared to the warriors and mags that filled Lunara's tales. But in his heart burned a quiet determination. Karen dreamed of becoming a knight, not for glory but to undo the curse that had stolen Lunara's light. His aspiration seemed impossible until one fateful evening when an old peddler visited the forge. The man was ragged, his cloak tattered, but his voice carried an authority that made Karen listen. "I seek the one bold enough to reclaim the crown of eternal dusk," the peddler said, laying down a strange medallion etched with celestial patterns. "The crown is real?" Karen asked, his voice trembling. "Not only real, but cursed. It lies hidden in the chamber of shadows, guarded by traps and an unyielding sentinel. Only one of true heart can retrieve it, and only by uniting the light of the three celestial artifacts can Lunara's skies be freed." The medallion glowed faintly as Karen touched it, and the peddler smiled knowingly. "You are chosen, whether you accept it or not." The gathering storm. That night, as Karen wrestled with doubt, the medallion began to glow, projecting a map of Lunara onto the wall of his modest room. It revealed the location of the first celestial artifact, the Orb of Starlight, hidden deep within the veiled forest. Determined to prove his worth, Karen set out at dawn, armed only with his smithing hammer and a few provisions. The veiled forest was infamous for its illusions, where travelers lost their way forever. As Karen ventured deeper, the trees seemed to close in around him, their silvery leaves whispering secrets in a language he couldn't understand. In the heart of the forest, Karen encountered a towering creature made of entwined roots and brambles, an ancient guardian called the Warden of Whispers. It spoke in a voice like rustling leaves. "Only those who see beyond themselves may pass. Answer this truth or turn back forever. What burns brightest but casts no shadow?" Karen hesitated, fear clawing at his resolve. Yet as he looked at the medallion and thought of his dream, the answer came to him. Hope. The warden paused, then stepped aside, its thorny frame dissolving into a burst of fireflies. Karen moved forward, his path now lit by their glow, and soon found the Orb of Starlight nestled within a hollow tree. As he touched it, the orb flared with radiant light, and he felt a surge of warmth and strength. An unexpected ally. As Karen exited the forest, he was ambushed by bandits, their leader a burly man with a cruel smirk. Outnumbered and unarmed save for his hammer, Karen braced for the worst. But before the bandits could strike, an arrow whistled through the air, embedding itself in a tree near their leader. A cloaked figure leapt from the shadows, twin daggers flashing in the twilight. Within moments, the bandits were routed, and Karen's rescuer revealed herself, a rogue named Isolde, known for her cunning and skill as a treasure hunter. "You're not cut out for this quest," she said bluntly. "But I admire your nerve. What's a blacksmith's apprentice doing chasing legends?" Karen told her about the crown and his dream of breaking Lunara's curse. Isolde listened, her sharp eyes softening. "Lucky for you, I know where the next artifact lies, the Mirror of Dusk, hidden in the sunken city of Ilithar. But you'll need more than bravery to get it. You'll need me." Despite her brashness, Karen sensed a sincerity in Isolde's offer. Together, they set out toward Ilithar, their journey fraught with dangers yet buoyed by newfound camaraderie. The shadow lurks. Unbeknownst to them, a dark force had taken notice of their quest. Lord Caroth, a fallen knight twisted by the curse, had vowed to claim the crown's power for himself. From his fortress atop the Spire of Gloom, Caroth watched their progress through enchanted mirrors, his crimson eyes burning with malice. "They will lead me to the crown," he murmured. "And when they do, I shall finish what the curse began." Part 2, The Depths of Ilithar. The journey to Ilithar. The sunless sky above them was a constant reminder of Lunara's unyielding twilight. Yet, as they traveled further from the safety of their homes, the world seemed to close in. Karen's footsteps grew heavier as they crossed barren lands and tangled forests. His mind drifted constantly to the crown, to the whispers of its power, but more so to the people who would benefit if Lunara could once again bask in sunlight. He could almost feel the warmth of the sun on his face, a sensation long lost to the kingdom's people. Isolde, ever silent but watchful, moved like a shadow beside him, her eyes scanning the horizon with sharp, calculating intent. Her expertise as a rogue made her invaluable, but her reasons for helping Karen remained elusive. When they reached the edge of the mist-shroud hills, the terrain began to change. The lush forests and grasslands faded into jagged rock formations, and a bitter wind began to howl around them, carrying with it the scent of salt water and ancient stone. Karen knew they were close. "Beyond the hills lies the sunken city," Isolde said, her voice grave. "Ilithar, lost to the waves and time. But the Mirror of Dusk, it's no ordinary artifact. It bends light, distorts reality. To claim it, you must face more than just traps and riddles. You will face your deepest fears." Karen nodded, his resolve hardening. It didn't matter what challenges awaited him. He had a duty to fulfill. The city of Ilithar. The entrance to Ilithar was hidden beneath the hills, a vast archway carved from stone and sealed by the tides. As they approached, the wind became even sharper, and the sky darkened, thickening with clouds. With a deft movement, Isolde revealed a hidden lever, pulling it with a click that echoed in the silence. Slowly, the stone doorway groaned open, revealing a long stairwell that led deep into the earth. Karen's heart raced as he followed her into the darkness. The air inside was cold and damp, and the silence was oppressive, broken only by the distant trickle of water. The walls of the stairwell were etched with faded symbols, once radiant, now eroded by centuries of neglect. Isolde lit a torch, and its flickering light cast eerie shadows across the floor as they descended. The city's ruins were sprawled out before them as they reached the cavern's floor. Once a place of grand beauty, Ilithar was now a labyrinth of crumbling towers and half-sunken buildings, where nature had long since reclaimed what civilization had abandoned. The streets were shrouded in mist, and the water of the subterranean lake lapped quietly at the city's foundations. Isolde led the way toward the central spire, where the Mirror of Dusk was rumored to reside. But as they approached, Karen noticed something strange. The city wasn't completely abandoned. There were movements in the shadows, figures darting between ruins, their eyes glowing faintly in the darkness. They were not human. The Forgotten Ones. These creatures were remnants of Ilithar's lost people, cursed by the curse of the crown centuries ago. Deformed and twisted by the eternal twilight, they had become guardians of the city, bound by ancient magics to protect the mirror. A hiss broke the silence as one of the Forgotten Ones emerged from the mist, a tall, gaunt figure with skin like cracked stone. Its eyes gleamed with an unnatural light. It spoke in a voice that felt like ice against Karen's bones. "Who dares disturb the resting place of the Mirror of Dusk?" it demanded. "We seek the mirror to break the curse," Karen said, his voice steady despite the fear that threatened to rise within him. The Forgotten One tilted its head, and for a moment, there was an unsettling silence. Then it spoke again, its voice slow and deliberate. "Many have come before you. None have succeeded. You will fail as they did." "We will not fail," Karen said, his determination unwavering. He had come too far to turn back now. The Forgotten One's gaze darkened, and in the blink of an eye, it lunged at them, its elongated claws aiming for Karen's throat. Isolde was quicker, drawing her daggers and slashing at the creature's arm, forcing it back. Karen took a step forward, clutching his hammer tightly. The air grew heavier with each movement, thick with magic, but his heart pounded with a clarity he hadn't felt before. With a powerful swing, Karen struck the creature's shoulder, sending it crashing to the ground. It hissed in pain and fury, but before it could rise again, Isolde threw a vial of glowing powder at its feet, causing an explosion of blinding light. The Forgotten One screamed and vanished into the mist, leaving only a faint trace of its eerie presence. They stood, breathless and shaken, but Karen knew they couldn't stop now. They had to reach the spire. The Mirror of Dusk. At the peak of the central spire, Karen and Isolde found the Mirror of Dusk, an enormous, obsidian-framed mirror that reflected no light but seemed to draw all light into itself. The mirror was surrounded by faint, swirling clouds of mist, and a low hum echoed from its surface. "Touch it, and you'll see the truth," Isolde said, her voice tight with caution. Karen stepped forward, his hand reaching toward the mirror. As soon as his fingers brushed its surface, a torrent of images flashed before his eyes, visions of Lunara's past, its once brilliant sun, and the disaster that had cursed the land. He saw his own face, not as a blacksmith's apprentice but as a knight, clad in radiant armor, wielding a sword of pure light. The crown shimmered above him, but instead of bringing salvation, it consumed him, twisting him into something unrecognizable. Then, the vision changed. He saw Lord Caroth, the fallen knight, standing before him, his eyes burning with dark desire. "You are the last obstacle, Karen Vale. You will never succeed. You will join me, as all those before you have." Karen recoiled, stumbling back from the mirror. "No," he whispered, shaking his head. "This isn't my fate." But the vision did not stop. It showed him the path ahead, the final artifact, the crown of eternal dusk, hidden in the caverns of despair. To reach it, he would have to confront Lord Caroth himself, and his vision warned that the journey would not only challenge his body but his very soul. The Shadow's Reach. As Karen stepped away from the mirror, Isolde's hand was already on his shoulder, pulling him into the shadows. They had no time to lose. Lord Caroth was not far behind, and he would stop at nothing to claim the crown's power. "Karen," Isolde said, her voice low but urgent. "You must be ready. The mirror shows a future, but it does not dictate it. You are the one who holds the power to shape it." Karen nodded. His heart pounded with fear, but his resolve was stronger than ever. The crown of eternal dusk was within reach, and he would stop at nothing to reclaim the sun for Lunara. Part 3, The Crown of Eternal Dusk. The Caverns of Despair. The journey to the Caverns of Despair was a harrowing one. Karen and Isolde traveled through treacherous mountains and over rivers of molten stone, their way lit only by the flickering glow of torches and the dim light of the starlit sky. The landscape became more desolate with every passing mile, jagged rocks, barren plains, and winds that howled like the screams of the lost. As they approached the entrance to the caverns, Karen felt a cold shiver run down his spine. The air was thick with a palpable sense of foreboding. The entrance to the caverns was a vast, yawning mouth of stone, flanked by twisted statues of long-forgotten gods. There were no signs of life, only the haunting echo of their footsteps as they ventured inside. Inside, the caverns were alive with magic. Faint, shifting lights danced along the walls, and the faint sound of whispers seemed to follow them wherever they went. Karen's heart raced with every step, but Isolde's calm presence steadied him. She had grown more somber on their journey, her eyes always scanning the shadows, knowing full well that they were not alone. At the heart of the caverns, deep beneath the earth, they found what they had been searching for, the throne of twilight, upon which sat the crown of eternal dusk. It was a throne of obsidian and silver, set upon a raised platform surrounded by an ethereal glow. The crown itself shimmered with a dark, otherworldly light, its jagged edges like the very shards of night. But before they could step forward, a voice echoed through the caverns, deep and resounding. It was a voice that Karen recognized instantly, the voice of Lord Caroth. "You are too late," Karen Vale Carotha's voice rang out, and from the shadows, he emerged, his armor gleaming with blood-red runes, his eyes burning with a fierce, malicious light. "The crown is mine." Karen's grip tightened around his hammer. "I won't let you claim it." Lord Caroth laughed, a cruel, twisted sound. "You think you can defeat me? You're nothing but a boy with a dream. I was once like you, a knight, a hero. But the curse has shown me the truth. The crown belongs to the one who can control the darkness. It will be my power that frees Elunera, and once I rule, the kingdom will know what true strength is." Isolde stepped forward, her daggers gleaming in the dim light. "You're wrong, Caroth," she said, her voice cold. "The darkness doesn't bring freedom. It brings destruction. And I won't let you drag Karen into your madness." Carotha's smile faded, replaced by a dangerous scowl. "Then prepare to die, rogue." With a wave of his hand, the ground shook, and shadows erupted from the cavern walls, swirling around them like tendrils of smoke. Caroth raised his sword, a blade of pure shadow, and charged at Karen. The battle was fierce. Karen fought with all his strength, his hammer crashing against Carotha's sword, sparks flying as the two warriors collided. But it was clear that Carotha's power was far greater. With each blow, Karen felt his strength draining, his body growing heavier as the darkness consumed the air around them. The crown, sitting so close, seemed to pulse with energy, calling to him, urging him to take it. The temptation was strong, but Karen's resolve held firm. He could not succumb to the darkness, not even in the face of Carotha's overwhelming power. Isolde moved swiftly, distracting Caroth long enough for Karen to regain his footing. She threw a vial of enchanted dust at the dark knight, temporarily blinding him with a burst of brilliant light. In that moment of vulnerability, Karen saw his opportunity. With all the strength he could muster, he hurled his hammer toward the crown. It struck with a thunderous sound, sending a shockwave through the cavern. The shadows recoiled as the hammer made contact with the crown of eternal dusk, shattering its dark aura and releasing a burst of pure light. For a moment, everything seemed to freeze. The very air around them shimmered, and the ground trembled as if the world itself was holding its breath. The crown of eternal dusk, once a symbol of power and corruption, began to glow with a warm, golden light. The darkness that had gripped Elunera for centuries began to recede, and for the first time in ages, the first rays of sunlight broke through the cavern ceiling, bathing the land in a soft, golden glow. The final confrontation. Keroth screamed in fury as the darkness around him began to unravel, his power fading in the face of the light. The ground beneath him cracked, and the very stone walls of the cavern seemed to shift and collapse. "No," he cried, his voice cracking with desperation. "I was meant to rule. I was meant to bring salvation to Lunara." Karen stood tall, his chest heaving, his gaze unwavering. "Salvation doesn't come through control. It comes through freedom. Freedom from the darkness and from the lies you've told yourself." With a final surge of energy, Karen summoned the full force of the light that now filled the cavern. Keroth's form wavered, his armor cracking as the light tore through him. The fallen knight let out a final, anguished scream before dissolving into nothingness, his shadowy presence erased forever. The sun rises. With Keroth defeated, Karen approached the crown of eternal dusk, now glowing with a gentle warmth. He placed his hand on its surface, feeling the power within it, not the corruption, but the essence of balance, of day and night, of light and darkness, working in harmony. The rays of the sun, long denied to Lunara, poured into the caverns, illuminating the once dark land. The land of Lunara began to change. The forests began to grow, flowers bloomed where only withered plants had stood. The rivers shimmered with golden light, and the kingdom, once trapped in endless twilight, now basked in the glow of the long-lost sun. Isolde stood by his side, her eyes softening as the light bathed the land. "You did it, Karen. You really did it." Karen looked out over the land, his heart swelling with pride. "We did it," he corrected, turning to her with a smile. "Together." And as the sun rose over the kingdom of Lunara for the first time in centuries, Karen knew that their world had been changed forever. The darkness had been vanquished, the curse broken, and a new dawn had begun. Epilogue: The Legacy of the Crown. Years passed, and Karen Vale, once a simple blacksmith's apprentice, became a knight of legend, known throughout Lunara for his bravery, his wisdom, and his unwavering heart. He ruled with fairness, never forgetting the lessons of the past, and ensured that the balance of light and darkness was always respected. The crown of eternal dusk, once a symbol of power and destruction, was placed in the heart of Lunara's capital, where it served as a reminder that true strength came not from controlling the forces of nature but from embracing them and learning to live in harmony with them. And so, the kingdom of Lunara flourished, bathed in the golden light of the sun, a place where the dreams of one determined young man had become the hope of an entire world. The end.